Patient for all our students.
Thank you.
So here we have our host, Gurpyar. Gurpyar, let's start.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello, everyone. This is Gurpyar Kaur Japji. I hope you all are doing fine and are excited to meet our guest today.
Yes.
So we are overjoyed to welcome Mr. Abhimanyu Rathour, the writer of the poetry book When Life Doesn't Give You Lemons, on the set of Astuteness at Peak. Hello, Bhaiya. How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We extend our arms with a smile so bright. Thank you for joining us today. It is a pleasure and an honor to have you here. Could you please introduce yourself to the audience while I pin you?
My name is Abhimanyu Rathour. I am 17 years of age and I'm in grade 12. I write sometimes and I do yoga. I'm a contortionist. Uh, I read books. I love books. And my favorite thing to write probably is poetry, specializing in sorrow and grief.
Thank you, Bhaiya. So, your book, When Life Doesn't Give You Lemons, is a dazzling gem, a magnificent tapestry, and a glorious symphony of poetry that sparkles, weaves, and harmonizes your brilliance, your skill, and your vision. Could you please tell us what kind of journey your book takes the readers on?
First of all, of course, you would have to read it to know what a journey it is. I would know that writing it definitely was a journey. I had written all these poems not for readers to enjoy them. I had written it for my own self, for things that I felt on my own. Um, for instance, I've written a lot of mythological references, and those references I encountered because of my grandmother, and those things are nostalgic to me. And when it comes to love and grief, that too I wrote with my own experience and with things that reflected in my life. I think it would not just give you a journey through words. I think it would tell you a lot about me. And the journey is very, I'd call it a roller coaster, because I had published this book under a write-a-thon in which I was allowed only to publish 21 poems. So I had to choose out of all the poems I had written at that time. I had to choose only the 21 poems that I wanted to get published. So it's all very different. Each poem encounters a different scenario and incorporates each genre through poetry.
So that means we are getting another book from you in the future.
Uh, you might. I'm in 12th grade right now, so have to prioritize studies as well. But maybe you will, but it would not be poetry this time. It would be a good, bulky novel.
Okay, I'm excited already. So let's move forward. I would like to share that I have made my own annotated version of this book. So I've annotated what I feel, what I am going through when I'm reading your words. So a bulky novel is, I'm already excited, very excited. I would probably be the first reader.
That is very sweet.
Thank you. So let's move forward. Your book has a very enchanting and distinctive title that lures us into this journey of raw emotions, visceral feelings, and a home away from home. So, I would like to ask, how did you come up with such a creative idea for the title? What inspired you to choose it? And please also tell us that how does it relate to the main themes and messages of this book?
Just give me 1 second. Right. So I have heard this saying going around for quite a while now: when life gives you lemons, make some lemonade. Um, but when I wrote this book, what came to me was that sometimes life does not give you lemons. And most of the poems that I do write refer to things which we do not have. They're less of an ode and more of a complaint to people and for people and against people. So I'd say When Life Doesn't Give You Lemons is a very antagonistic title, which I thought was very apt for the stuff I write. Because it usually is about what I do not get versus what I do have. Sometimes being ungrateful has a gratitude of its own.
Wow, that's so classic. So it means that this quote was your trigger or spark that led you come up with the idea of your book, or was
Um,
it something else?
it was not the title that inspired me, it was a friend of mine. Um, I am very blessed in life when it comes to friends and family. Life may not give me lemons, but in this field, it definitely has. Uh, the title itself was written after the poems were selected. After I had
Okay.
chosen the poems, I thought that these poems reflect better with this title. So that's how it
Okay.
came together.
So you're grateful to your friend of. We also are grateful to that friend of yours for giving us this book.
Yeah, I would let him know.
Thank you. And so, what was something that kept you moving forward when you were writing your book? Because everyone needs a push to keep moving forward. And how did you overcome any doubts or difficulties? Because it is very common for us to stop or to give up at the first stage of our journey when we are not coming up with ideas, or we can't just have our we don't get our hands on writing. So how did you overcome with that?
Yes, I'd say there had been times where I did feel that way. Out of the 21 poems, 17 of those I had written already. I wouldn't uh, brag, but I had written quite a lot of poems, and it had become really difficult for me to select out of them. I selected only the ones that I remembered having felt things. So those were the 17s that I did choose. And I thought that instead of just writing, just sticking to what I had already written, I thought I should incorporate new things and delve into newer aspects. And even when I had to submit it day by day, when I had to submit each poem day by day, my mom used to check up on me. She was like, "You were writing a book, no? What happened to it? Did you finish it? Is it published?" She would ask me every day if it had gotten published by that time, which it had not, but it kept reminding me that I'm supposed to do something. And there is one poem at the end which uh, is called The Stock Market. I had written
Yeah.
that uh, in 11th grade. It was the last poem I wrote at that time, and I had written it the day before submission. And it was our English class. It was our English extra class, and we had two periods. It was an hour and 15 minutes in total, I think. And in between, our teacher gave us a break for 10 minutes. She said you all could go around, have some water and stuff like that. But at that time, it really, I don't know, something just struck me, and that was like, yeah, right now I'm going to write the last poem for that book, and I wrote it in those 10 minutes sitting there.
Wow, that's great. So we should always have a track of time and keep our, you know, keep ourselves productive when we have time.
We must, we definitely should. And I think writing is the best thing you can do, because whenever we have time on our hands, we tend to procrastinate, we tend to overthink. And what we don't realize is that overthinking can be turned into something so beautiful. I'm not saying that all poems are beautiful, which they are, but I'm not saying so. I'm not saying all my poems are beautiful, but there is something about writing what you feel. And what you feel in that moment can only be expressed the closest with words. Words are all we have when it comes to expression. So I think in that shortest time, if you have the power of a pen, if you could write down what you feel in the shortest amount of time, if you can sync your heart with your hands and they write at the same pace as what you feel, then I think that is the most productive one can be.
Thank you. I guess that your poems are masterpieces of language, imagery, and emotion, and I love each one of them at that how they reveal a deep understanding of the human condition and the world we live in, and how you said about the antagonist title and the lemons we don't have in our life. So I would like to ask that how I'm talking about those 17 points, that did you have a specific theme or goal in mind when you started writing, or did you let your words flow naturally? And how did you revise and polish your poems until they reached their final form when you were going to publish your book?
First of all, thank you for the praise. Secondly, um, when I was younger, when I was in say ninth grade, and it was just the beginning of the pandemic, my one of my English teachers, during our writing task, we were supposed to write a diary, and at that time, I was not able to cope with the lockdown very well with the online classes. And in one of the attendance sessions, she recommended it to us all that we should all start writing diary entries at night to help us cope with what we're going through, to survive the difficult times. And I'm not saying I write every day or every night, but that did get me into a habit of writing how I feel. And hence, I became more comfortable with my emotions. Uh, so that's how I got into poetry as well, because it was when you write a diary entry about your feelings, you are writing what you feel. If you start synchronizing the endings, it starts rhyming. There is not much of a difference between what a diary entry is versus what a poem about your feelings are, what a poem about your feelings is. So it's basically the rhyme, but otherwise free verse poems too. I'm a big fan of free verse poems. And when it comes to rechecking, I don't think I have ever rechecked a poem. Um, I have this trick called the 4 minute trick. It's made up. Okay, it's just a made up thing I have in my mind, which says if I feel something so strongly, I am going to take 4 minutes and I'm going to write all I feel about it. And it just so happens that it ends up rhyming.
Wow, that's so amazing. I'm also going to try this 4 minute trick now. And
You must.
this made up trick, it is a must to go up on social media.
I shouldn't reveal my secrets too much now. Don't want everyone copying it.
Okay, that's your wish. Okay, so I would very much like to say, and it's an honest review, that your book is a work of art that would amaze any writer, and particularly one as young and talented as you. And I would like to ask that how did you coordinate your writing with your other pursuits and duties at such a young age, at such a tender age, and how what kind of support and guidance did you acquire from others?
Okay. Thank you for asking this question. This is a question not many people ask. Whenever someone knows that I have written a book, this is the last thing that comes to their mind. But this is something I've never talked about, but I'd really love to. I'd say, okay, uh, I'm a person who has all his fingers in every different pie. Uh, Last year was a challenge. Definitely, it was a challenge for me. I had been busy with so much stuff, science exhibitions, other competitions, cultural activities. And then that too, I have non medical. I've taken up non medical and I was in 11th grade. I had a lot going on. And I have to say, it was difficult, but in the end, I made it. I got through it. And I think so can everyone else. If I can do it, really, if me of all people could do it, then so can everyone else.
No, we all need to make us work, and that if you can make it, if you could make it, we could do it too.
Anyone can. It's a cakewalk.
Okay, we should now start working, we should get our hands on writing, on what our passion is, and take small steps each day to reach our goal, right? It is
Definitely.
okay if we can't do it. It won't work in a single night, of course. It won't work overnight. We have to take small steps every day. So poetry is a powerful and versatile form of expression that can convey a range of emotions, thoughts, and experiences. We would all like to know that what does poetry mean to you personally and professionally? How do you hope that your poetry will impact your readers and the world?
I don't think there is any professional, there's anything professional about poetry at all. Poetry is all personal, whether it's written by me or written by anyone else. Poetry to me is so therapeutic, so cathartic. There are some poems which you could read and you could simply cry if you relate to them. There are some poems that are so universal, whether it has happened to you or hasn't, still you'd find some relatability in it. For instance, my favorite poet has to be Sylvia Plath, Whitney Hansen, and Sarah Kay. These three are my favorite poets, and I would like to mention a book which is called The Odyssey. It is an entire book which is a classic, and it is one poem extended throughout the book which tells about the story of Odysseus on his return from the Trojan War as he goes on and fares the sea to get back to his wife. So I would recommend these three authors and this book when it comes to poetry.
Guys, please note this down. We are exploring them next. Could you please repeat them so everybody can note them down? So
Okay.
I will note them down in the chat box. Please someone copy it and share it in the group.
Okay. So there is Whitney Hansen. She has two books out. One is called Home and the other is called Climate. And then there is Sylvia Plath. I know two books by her, three actually. One is Colossus, the second is Ariel, and the third one is The Bell Jar, which is a sort of semi autobiography written by her. And then what was the third one? Whitney Hansen, yeah, Sarah Kay. Sarah Kay does not publish her poetry. She is an open mic poetry performer. So most her videos are on YouTube, and you can see her performing her poetry live. And the last book was The Odyssey, which I am not sure everyone would be able to read. It is slightly difficult to read, but I think if you put your mind to it, you'll be able.
Thank you, Maya, for sharing such authors with us. We are definitely exploring them next because we have a literary club working on, and we explore different authors and different books every week or month as our participants are willing and are comfortable with. So these poets are next. We are getting our hands on. So now there's a tricky question coming your way. I wouldn't say tricky, but yeah, somehow it is. If poetry were banned tomorrow, what would you do instead to express yourselves creatively?
This question in itself is very impractical. I don't think poetry could ever be banned. Um, uh, I it's you cannot define poetry. Everything is poetry. Even words you write on the paper, even if they do not rhyme, even if they're just a sentence or two, they are still poetry. So I don't think in any senses could poetry be defined. But if it is, I'm not sure how I would express my feelings. But um, I think reading in it, maybe not poetry, just uh, just novels that are relatable, I think that's more of an expression. When you read something that you relate to, it becomes your emotion as well. So I think I read books like those which invoke feelings inside. So that's my what will I call it? That's my substitute for poetry.
Okay. So, this book is a splendid bouquet of your poems when life doesn't give you lemons that display your artistry and your insight. I would like to know that what does this book mean to you as a poet and as a person? How does this book reflect your journey and yourself and your growth as a writer and a person itself? And then I would like to know what are some challenges and joys you faced while creating this book? Because it expresses you.
Okay. So to answer the first question, uh, as a person, this book is really special to me because it's as if I have a child of my own. Uh, because when I wrote this book, I took a lot of help from my English teacher, not in writing, but I was so scared when I wrote it. I had to, every preface, every introduction, everything that I wrote, I sent it to her. I was like, is this too pessimistic? I hope not. And then, even when it did get published, there were a few challenges that I faced, which were external. There was some recognition that I did not get, which I wish I did. But it came around, and so it was just you have to be patient sometimes. What's yours truly
Yeah.
comes to you. And the joy of writing this was that it made my mother really happy. She and even my father, they both don't say it to my face, but sometimes they do go prancing around. You would just see in a nudge. If my uncle and aunt are some people, some relatives are home, mom would say, "Show them your book, no?" And I'm like, "All right, if you want me to." I forgot I had written one, but that's the biggest joy of writing this book for me. Uh,
Wow. So we get that when you make it, when you push yourself hard and you work hard for it, one day you'll be happy. You will see, you will look back, and you will get amazed on what you did and that you did it yourself.
Definitely, that is true.
Okay, I would like to know that which piece of your writing from this book do you cherish the most, and what makes it special to you?
Okay. I'd say, okay, I couldn't exactly pick any, and they're not that special, but I'd say a child, the poem A Child, or The
Yeah.
Fire Born about Draupadi. Those two are my favorite ones.
They are my favorite ones too. The child. I also like the child and his toys. I also love that poem. The last line, it took my heart.
When I wrote the poem about the child, I was giving my last exam for I don't know what, but it really triggered me that I soon I'd grow a certain age and I'd have to let go of my parents and I'll have to be independent, and that was a little scary. So that was the outcome of that emotion.
Now that's a coincidence, but ma'am asked me to share the book, some like my favorite poems and the poems I like, and your information and the cover page, as everyone has applied it as their background, so that they know about you before the interview. And I coincidentally I have shared the Fireborn and the Child to them, these two poems, so that they get an insight on what you have written, and the cover page and the last page. I have shared these two poems.
Great minds think alike, right?
Sure. Now, do you have any? So you have already told that you are getting your hands on a novel. So when can we expect that from you?
Mm, you'll be in 12th grade by the time I by the time I think of publishing a novel. But I will.
Okay.
Mark my words, I will publish a novel, but it'll be a long, long time from now, and I'll make sure I'll write so well that you'll see it in maybe in the New York Times seller.
We are sure you will, and we are all rooting for you, right, guys? Okay, now the audience here is eager to ask you some questions as well. Can we open the floor for them? Okay, guys, you can ask your questions. Come on, come on.
I want to
Hello,
ask.
Bhaiya. I'm Akhya.
Okay, okay,
I
one by
have
one.
to.
Akhya, Akhya.
Bhaiya, can you please just suggest some tips for writing our emotions in the form of poetry?
Okay. Sometimes when we grab our pen to write how we feel, we tend to go blank. We tend to think, what am I supposed to feel? And when you feel this way, you could start off by writing about how you do not feel anything at all, how your mind feels blank. One by one, every single thought that comes to your mind, you're supposed to just start writing it, and the sentences will frame themselves. All you have to do is,
Okay, thank you, Bhaiya.
Before continuing, can we guys rejoin because it's time to like it will end itself. I don't want to interrupt the answer. So
okay, we
can
will.
we guys rejoin? Okay, okay.
Yes,
So we are
sure, sure,
rejoining.
sure, Gurpyar.
Sorry, ma'am. Okay, she left. Okay, everyone, please rejoin.